At Subway, there's no disputing the jalapeno tuna, featured $5 footlong of March. It's a kickin' combo of their tuna and spicy jalapenos for bold flavor. Just $5 this March only. So hurry in. Subway, eat fresh.
The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the Sports Guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report, a sunny and slightly chilly Thursday here in Southern California. One of the few traditions we have on this podcast, Matthew Berry comes on about, I'd say 10 days before every baseball season, right when the big fantasy baseball weekend happens, which is this weekend. And he comes on and he babbles about a lot of sleepers and rookies and guys that he feels are going to get hot and guys that he hates. And he's here right now. Matthew Berry, what's happening?
I also talk about sexy guys. Don't forget that.
Forgot about the sexy guys.
Yep.
So let's talk about Adrian Gonzalez first, because
You bet.
you actually incorporated some inside information.
Mm-hmm.
You did an interview with him and Stefania Bell.
Right.
Explain what happened.
Well, he came into he was promoting the video game, so he did the car wash here. And it's amazing sort of what you learn, right? So he obviously had a great year last year and previously, but we were talking to him, and Stefania wanted to talk to him about his shoulder. He was coming off that shoulder injury, and he was like, actually, I've sort of been injured for 2 years. People didn't really realize it, but he was injured in his last year in San Diego. So he told us that he had actually spent the winter looking at tapes of him in San Diego because he felt like finally he could swing through the ball, that he had adjusted his swing all last year so that it wouldn't hurt as much, and he didn't swing entirely through the ball because there was still a little bit of a twinge in his shoulder. You can hear that if you just search for Adrian Gonzalez on Fantasy Focus, you can hear the whole interview, but like I was shocked by that. I was like, wait a minute. So you've been doing this like at 80% or whatever? I mean, he had the best statistical best statistical year of his career last year with the exception of home runs. And now he's going to hit through the ball? Like now so I'm all in on Adrian Gonzalez. I think he's going to have a big year. The other thing is, Bill, and I know you know this too, right? You in this job, you get to meet a lot of athletes, and you sort of get a sense. I mean, it's hard to size up a person when you're meeting them for 10, 15 minutes or whatever, but at least for me, you sort of get a sense when you meet people. Sometimes you're like, this guy's a bit of a knucklehead, and this guy takes it really seriously. And Adrian Gonzalez just totally impressed me from start to finish. Just the thought process he put into everything, his answers. Just I was just unbelievably impressed with him. I'd always been a fan, but after meeting him and talking to him, I was an even bigger fan, and that's not always the case when I meet an athlete.
Yeah, that's why normally I hate meeting athletes, because you do get colored. Like even when we did a podcast with Chris Paul at the All-Star weekend in Orlando, like he's just so impressive in person.
Right.
And you feel like, wow, this guy would be just great if you were on a basketball team. This guy was your point guard. And, in that scenario, I want to know those things. But other times somebody can be having an off day or, can be distracted and they might come off as a dick or something, and maybe that's not a true representation. But I've heard similar stuff about Gonzalez. I want to go back to one thing you said, though.
Yep.
He wasn't swinging through the ball. Watching him, all season, I always felt like he was hurt. My dad and I would talk about it. Like, what? Like, I thought this guy had more power than this. Like, it didn't totally add up. So when I read that whole thing, it made sense. And, people thought he was going to destroy Fenway last year because he was going from Petco to Fenway. Now this year, in that lineup where, at least we know the top five is going to be as good as it gets,
Right.
To think that he could have a better season than last year is kind of frightening.
It is. Yeah, people, he basically had sort of the same power numbers as he did the year before, but, everyone expected, right, getting out of Petco, getting into Fenway. Having said that, think about the Red Sox last year, Bill. I'm going to force you to do that for 1 second. Right? A lost season for pretty much every Red Sox except Gonzalez and Pedroia. Pretty much everyone else on the team kind of disappointed. So
well, not Ellsbury.
Ellsbury had a monster year. Sorry,
Yeah.
but obviously Crawford was down, Euclid was down, the whole pitching staff was down. So
Ortiz was
solid.
surprising.
Ortiz was solid. I mean, we could go through, but in general, I think overall, kind of a lost season for the Red Sox, maybe a distracted clubhouse a bit. So yeah, I'm very excited. I'm actually, I think, one of the few people. I have Adrian Gonzalez not only inside my top 10 overall, but I have him ahead of Joey Votto. In most places I've seen have Votto ahead of Gonzalez. And it's not that Votto isn't terrific. He is. I have both guys, inside my top 12. I think Adrian Gonzalez is going to continue to do all the other things he did and add some power.
Let's bang out some of these guys quickly because you like Carl Crawford, which I just could not disagree more with you.
Okay.
I've just seen it happen too many times in fantasy where somebody falls off a cliff and then he gets a huge benefit of the doubt comeback season kind of buzz.
Mm-hmm.
And half the time the guy might just be done or at a different stage of his career, and I really wonder if he's at that point. I would not go near him in my draft.
Well, you say you wouldn't go near him. I think that's a mistake. Just in general, I think having that attitude, let's talk fantasy strategy just for one quick second, right? I think having that attitude about any player is a mistake because every player can either be a sleeper or a bust depending on what it costs to acquire them on draft day, be it auction or a draft, right? So if Carl Crawford is there in the 20th round, would you take him? Yeah,
well,
of course you would. Okay,
I'm in an auction.
All right, so you're in an auction.
$25.
All right, so but hang on then for a second. So I mean, if Carl Crawford was there for $5, would you take him?
Of course.
All right, would you take him? Hang on,
in the 20s.
Hang on, but would you take him for $10?
I'd go up to like 13.
Okay, so that's fine. So that's your price on Carl Crawford. So I don't like saying more than likely he's going to go for more than that, but you never know. So there's a point at which every player becomes a value. I think that I did this study, right? And so, we have this thing on ESPN.com called the Player Rater, which is a independent statistical analysis of every player and how well they perform in typical fantasy categories compared to every other player. So it's a little bit, it's sort of like fantasy value above replacement. It's not exactly, but the idea is like if you've got three guys that all hit 10 home runs and you have only one guy that gets 10 steals, that guy is more valuable because there's only one 10 steal guy, whereas there's 3 10 home run guys. Make sense? So it bases both just on not only the numbers they produce, but where those numbers compare to every other player. Okay.
Got it.
All right. So we looked at it, and over the last 3 years, of the players that finished in the top 10 of the player raters at the end of the year, so top 10 fantasy players overall, that were drafted outside the top 40. So these are guys that basically were drafted outside the first 4 rounds that then wound up as a top 10 player, as a first-round pick. So obviously greatly exceeded their draft day value. And of those, over the last 3 years, 73% of those players that drafted outside the top 40, finished in the top 10, Bill, were proven veterans that were coming off of a bad year. Think about last year. Think about guys like Curtis Granderson and Matt Kemp. There were known commodities in fantasy leagues, but they went last year, Ellsbury too, were guys that went lower than they normally would because they were coming off bad years 2 years ago. So to me, you've got a much better shot. And so that's kind of one of my overall theory, right, is I call proven player off a bad year. Carl Crawford has been a fantasy stud every single year of his life since 2003, since he's been in the majors full time, except for last year. There is some injury concern. And that's why you take him in the 4th or 5th round as opposed to in the 7th or 8th, which is where he's going now. That's crazy. This is a guy who prior to last year was a 1st or 2nd round pick every single year.
Yeah, but hold on. There's more than just physical concerns. He's going to be the lightning rod if he starts out slow and the Red Sox team underachieves. He'll be the guy that gets blamed. Which, when it happens in a big city, is something that he just hasn't. He played in Tampa.
Yes, he did. He's got the contract to worry about as well. I mean, so that sort of puts a focal point on him. But there's so many big names on the Red Sox. I think maybe that takes some. And I think having Bobby Valentine out there, I think he's a character. He's going to give stuff to the press every day. I think there will be a honeymoon period in Boston first 6 weeks.
Look, I agree with your mindset, and this is one of my favorite fantasy strategies. I did it this year in the draft that we're in with Tony Parker.
Okay.
Sometimes people get bored with people, or they're coming off like a slightly off year or whatever, and that's when you get the best value for them.
Right.
But in this case, it really does seem like a lot of people feel like Crawford's a huge comeback bet. And
No,
I'm not sure I'm
his
seeing it.
You're wrong about that. I mean, maybe some places where you're talking about, but on ESPN.com in our average draft position, he is currently going in the 7th round. He's going 67th overall. Here are some of the players going ahead of Carl Crawford right now: Shane Victorino, Lance Berkman, Ramos Ramirez.
Berkman.
Right, he's going 2 picks ahead of Michael Morse. He's going a couple picks ahead of Asdrubal Cabrera. He's going 5 picks ahead of Asdrubal Cabrera. He's Carl Crawford.
Stop it, America. He's going to do Asdrubal Cabrera.
Right. So if you're
Actually,
saying
he had a pretty good year last year.
Asdrubal Cabrera had a great year last year, I think it regresses some. I don't think the power is entirely legitimate. But having said that, he's Carl Crawford. I understand there is some risk there, but if I could get him for $25 in an AL-only league, I would do that every single time.
Do you wish Anaheim and your beloved Angels had spent $140 million on him?
Now that we have Albert Pujols? No, I don't. Thank you very much. Bill, I sent you that note. On behalf of all Angels fans, thank you and the Red Sox for taking John Lackey off our hands and saving us from Carl Crawford. I think Carl Crawford's going to have a big year, though. I really do. I'm a fan. I understand the risk is concerned, so I think there will be a draft day bargain on Crawford. I'd rather bet on a guy that's been a productive superstar for every year of his career up until last year than a guy who's done it once and sort of comes out of nowhere. Brett Laurie, this is sort of the poster boy for it. Brett Laurie is going ahead of Carl Crawford significantly. And I would much rather bet on a guy like Carl Crawford, who has a huge track record of success in the major leagues, versus a guy like Brett Laurie, who everyone loves. He's crushing it this spring. He had a great debut last year with the Blue Jays, but it's 150 at-bats. That's all he's got in the major leagues, 150 at-bats. A lot of people can look good over 150 at-bats. Brett Laurie is... Of course.
It's more fun to take Brett Laurie.
Of course. When you get to the draft, someone takes Brett Laurie, and everyone's going to go, ooh, sexy pick. There you go, Bill. What is my sexy limit, by the way, for the podcast?
4.5 is the over. I would like to see you go under.
Okay. Sal took the over. You took the under.
What are we expecting from Pujols this year?
I think good numbers. I think very good numbers.
The typical Pujols numbers?
Yeah. I am at number 2 overall. You always have a little bit of a concern. When you get up that high, you have to nitpick. So I have him just below Cabrera because he is switching leagues. He's nicked up a little bit last year, but he's Albert Pujols. I think he's going to have a very big year.
So you'd rank him, at least for the AL, Pujols, Cabrera?
No, Cabrera, Pujols.
Oh.
I have Cabrera at number 1.
What if Cabrera keeps getting hit in the face with ground balls, though?
Then
how many ground balls can hit him in the face before he has
two more? Fix
the stat?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Poor
more.
Miguel. I know.
He's like, can I just DH? Can you just make me the DH?
Right.
Please.
It's going to be a disaster. I mean, it is literally going to be, Fister with a 1-2 pitch here. It's a slow grounder to third. We should be out of the inning. It's by Cabrera. No. 1 run is in. 2 runs are
down.
in.
And he can't get up. He's too fat.
Exactly. Prince Fielder has gone over to help him, but he's fallen down.
And now they're both down.
Right.
It's going to be great. Yeah, I can't wait to make fat jokes all year about the Tigers. They're never going to get old either.
No. And their defense is going to be brutal, but that team's going to score a lot of runs. They're going to win a lot of 10-8 games.
So where do you think there's always a position that is just overflowing with talent? What position do you think that is this year? That's the one where you can get the bargains because everybody just went all in on big guys.
I think that the scarcity this year is in surprising places. So the opposite of that is where is there some depth? I think second base is actually a really deep position this year. Where most people usually second base isn't, but after the big guys of Cano, Pedroia, Kinsler, you got Uglin, Phillips, you got Zobrist, Ricky Weeks. I love Howard Kendrick, career .292 hitter, over 80 runs last year, and he was hitting mostly in front of Bobby Abreu. Now he gets to hit in front of Albert Pujols.
Late bloomer.
Absolutely. So double-digit steals and double-digit power each of the last 3 years. Seem to have a bit of a power increase last year, even if that's not legit and he regresses to 15 and 15. But 15 and 15 with a .290 average, and he's probably going to score 95 runs, something like that, hitting in front of Pujols, maybe even 100 if everything breaks right. I really like Howard Kendrick going in the 11th round. So you have him
hitting ahead of what spot in the order is he?
What do you mean?
You think he'll be number 2?
I think he's going to be the number 2 hitter, yes.
Ooh, right in front of Albert.
Yeah. Oh, I think Kendrick's going to have a big year. I think he's going to have a really, really big year. He's having a nice spring so far, too. And then you've got Neil Walker, who's always underrated, Dustin Ackley, Jason
Love
Kipnis.
That $6 Dustin Ackley.
Yep. Jamal Weeks. Some real nice speed there. Kelly Johnson. Kelly Johnson had a brutal year last year. Got traded, brutal year. Still wound up 21 home runs, 16 stolen bases, had a bad average. He's going to be a 250 guy, but now he's in Toronto. We've seen this. Guys go to Toronto and they start crushing it.
Yep.
If you can live with the average, and I think you'll be able to. I think he got a little bit unlucky last year with the average, so I think he's going to hit 245, 250, somewhere in there. Going in the 20th round, Danny Espinosa, that's a 20-20 guy. Again, bad average, but if you fortify that elsewhere, you can live with that. So I think there's a lot of people there. Ryan Rayburn, who is crushing in the spring. He's got 6 home runs. I don't think he's that good, but I do like Rayburn. He qualifies at second. So I think there's a lot of guys out there. Ryan Roberts qualifies at second. I think it's a pretty deep position this year.
What is your least favorite position for depth purposes?
Twofold. First off, I think first base gets ugly quick, especially if you're in an NL-only league. Right? If you're in an NL, because with Pujols and Cabrera going over, it's Joey Votto, and then it's a lot of then you're looking at Lance Berkman or Michael Morse as your number 2.
Ooh.
Freddie Freeman, I like him a lot, but as your 4th best first baseman in the league,
great.
You
great
got
name.
Gabby Sanchez, Paul Goldschmidt. So I think first base gets shallow quick, especially when you've got that corner position to think about. So I think first base is more shallow than you think. I think there's a big 7. With Pujols, Cabrera, Gonzalez, Votto, Prince Fielder, Teixeira, Paul Konerko, who never gets any love, and then you've got Hosmer sort of there at 8. I really like Hosmer a lot this year. And then I think there's a drop off. There's guys like Freeman. I think Michael Kadire is going to have a nice year in Colorado. He qualifies at first on our site. Michael Young, solid, but there's a legitimate. If you want a bopper, there is a drop off after 7. There is a significant drop off. We don't know what you're going to get out of Ryan Howard. Carlos Pena obviously kills your average. So there's a big drop off. I do like Michael Morse though, but so that's a position that I think is scarce, Bill. And then the other position is outfield. Assuming you're playing on ESPN where you got to play 5 outfielders, it gets ugly quick. There you get into question marks pretty quickly in outfield. Everyone thinks that's a deep position, but because you have to play 5 and you have to go 50 deep, you start getting into question marks somewhere in the mid-30s. So your 4th and 5th outfielder are going to be shaky unless you go there early.
That's when you end up with David Murphy on your team, just hoping for an injury.
Right. Although I kind of like David Murphy this year. Every year he falls into 450 at bats.
Always.
Solid numbers across the board, never hurts you.
Who is this year's Danny Herron?
Well, what do you mean by Danny Herron? Danny Herron's just a super consistent guy. Who's? No,
but the guy the pitcher who switches teams and just keeps it going and becomes that guy. Is there a Danny Herron?
Well, I don't know about the switching teams part. I think there are sleepers that take it to the next level, right? And there are pitchers that go to the next level. A couple of guys that I really like a lot. Zach Greinke, currently going 11th. I think he's going way too low. I think he's going to be a number 1 pitcher. He's going outside the top 10, so he's a number 2 fantasy pitcher.
And we've all had him,
yes.
Which kind of reduces his value at some point. You've had the Zach Greinke experience for the most part.
Many people have, but what I like about Greinke is I'm going to go a little sabermetric on you here. Go a little xFIP, right? Which is
I like the xFIP.
Right. Yeah, sure. And
it's great.
Right. It's a for those who are unfamiliar, it is a fairly good indicator of future performance. And Zach Greinke's xFIP last year 2.56, best in Major League Baseball.
What that means is usually it should be around 3.
Yeah. Right.
So that means he had really terrible luck.
Unbelievably bad. He had unbelievably bad luck. So, when you look at what his final numbers were and then you look at sort of his underlying numbers, Zach Greinke got really unlucky. His K per 9 over 10. Zach Greinke's a stud. So he's a sabermetric darling.
Team's not going to be as good, though.
I don't know. I think it is a winnable division for them. I agree that obviously going from Prince Fielder down to Aramis Ramirez is sort of your middle of the order guy hurts. But the fact that Ryan Braun somehow had the due to a clerical error or something like that, whatever.
He gets to play.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to get a full season out of Ryan Braun. I think that helps them a lot. I'm not as concerned with that. In terms of wins or losses, I think Zach Greinke is a guy that is. He's going. Listen, he's going the 11th pitcher overall, but I think he could easily be a top 5 pitcher this year, and he's going outside the top 10. Another guy that
what would be your number one excuse if you failed an ESPN drug test?
My number one excuse if I failed an ESPN drug test. Well, the Braun one is pretty good. I think it would be something with. I'd probably blame my kids. I'd probably throw my kids under the bus. Probably be like, hey. We were trying this thing for the babies, and I don't know, maybe something got in the air, and I had to take it because I was making the kids allergic, and get my agent on the phone. It would probably go something like that, something bad.
I would say sabotage. I would say somebody's trying to bring me down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, somebody. It costs like maybe $500 to bribe one of those urine collector dudes.
Right.
Somebody's trying to bring me down and ruin my career. Sabotage.
Right. This is clearly the work of Eric Karabell. Come on now.
Well, Ryan Braun, all he had to. Who's behind him in the Brewers lineup? He just could have blamed that guy, the fourth outfielder.
Yeah. Aoki, the new guy.
Yeah. Aoki, frame me. So you like the xFIP?
I like
Greinke.
the xFIP of Greinke. Another
strong xFIP.
Right. is another guy, Madison Bumgarner. I'm all in on Madison Bumgarner this year. xFIP 310 last year, 7th best in baseball. I don't know if you've looked at what he's been doing this spring, but through yesterday, a 15-1 strikeout to walk rate in just over 14 innings.
I really hate looking at the spring training results. Is that cool? I just don't want. As long as somebody's just not getting shelled, that's all I care about. I just want to make sure whoever I'm either thinking about keeping or drafting or whatever isn't just getting annihilated.
Right.
But I've made so many mistakes over the years with, that guy's hitting 420 in spring training. And it's like, yeah, he's had his hot streak before the season started. Then the season starts and the guy sucks. So I'm tired of looking at spring training.
It's not wrong. I mean, Ryan Rayburn leads spring training with 6 home runs so far. Do you know who led spring training last year in home runs?
Wasn't it that Jake Fox?
Jake Fox, good call, Bill. Yes, 10 home runs.
Yeah, Jake Fox got drafted. People bid on Jake Fox.
Oh, sure.
In my fantasy league, and I don't think he's in baseball, or he might be in AAA or something.
Catcher eligible Jake Fox. He sparked a bidding war. I don't think spring stats are really that important to look at. The one stat that I do look at, and Nate and I talked about this on the Fantasy Focus podcast we do. We talked about this the other day, is where people look at strikeout to walk rate for pitchers and look at them when they are really extreme. Like, this is one of the ways, like last year, both Nate and I were like, we believe in Big Fat Bartolo Colon. We think this is legitimate because his strikeout to walk rate in the spring was so significant. So where it's something like what Bumgarner has, like 15-1.
It makes sense.
Then you sort of pay attention. I'll give you 2 other guys that are doing really well this year that maybe keep an eye on in an NL or AL only league, right? Wade LeBlanc has a 15-2 strikeout to walk rate in 14 2/3 innings. I don't know for the NL. He played for the Padres and the Marlins.
Sure.
So with the Marlins this year. So
I don't follow any. I don't know what's going on with any NL team that spends less than $55 million. Just out at that point. I just don't care.
All right.
So we might as well follow AAA.
They signed Jose Reyes. What are you talking about? They got a brand new ballpark.
All right, now I'm in.
Yeah.
Now I'm following them.
All right.
They're spending money. I'm following them now.
And let's see. Francisco Liriano, an 18-2 strikeout to walk rate in just 13 innings. We've always known that he has the K ability, but the fact that he's limiting his walks is a good sign.
I have done that dance, my friend.
Oh, sure. We've all done it.
Yeah. I think I'm done with Francisco. I wish him the best.
I
wish him the best. I know he won't be on my team this year.
He is my fantasy kryptonite. I use your phrase, fantasy kryptonite. I use it all the time. And he is one of my fantasy kryptonite guys.
He's a sexy pick. Yeah. I just used one of your over-unders. Can I throw a possible?
Yeah. I have an AL only one for you of the strikeout.
Well, this is solely an xFIP sleeper.
Okay.
Did you see the difference between Brandon Morrow's ERA and his xFIP?
Speaking of, yes.
It's pretty significant.
Yes,
I mean,
it's
like it feels like, I don't know what happened to him last year, but something really weird happened to his actual stats.
Here's the problem on Brandon Morrow. Speaking of fantasy kryptonite, Brandon Morrow is my fantasy kryptonite. The problem is that
because he'll throw a complete game shutout with 15 strikeouts. You feel like you're on top of the world.
Every year it's the same thing. Brandon Morrow has been one of those guys that I've been waiting for, and not just me, but a lot of people in the fantasy community. We love Brandon Morrow. We love his stuff. We see those numbers. To your point, Bill, a 4.72 ERA last year, but his FIP was 3.64. His xFIP, his expected fielding independent pitching, 3.53. So it was 4.72, but his xFIP 3.53. But to this point, just speaking about it, in 2010, his ERA was 4.49, his xFIP 3.48. I mean,
it does seem like so.
I mean, the second year in a row. I mean, we've sort of been waiting for this on Brandon Morrow. I'm sort of out on Brandon Morrow. My guess is he will go off this year because he's been a sleeper for me for like 3 years. And you look at sort of his K9 and everything like that. So my guess is this will be the year that he goes off, which drives you crazy, right? Like you wait for a year, a guy all the time, and then he just
I thought xFIP could be deceiving if it's like a ground ball pitcher. But if it's a strikeout pitcher, usually it's more reliable, which makes it even more weird that the disparity between those two numbers was so large. I also like him. Like I always judge these guys by when I'm watching Red Sox games and we're trying to hit somebody. Like how good, how convinced am I that we can get a hit off the guy? And Brandon Morrow is one of those guys where you watch and go, oh my God, this guy should be like a 20-game winner. Like what's going on with this guy?
Yeah,
those guys are fun to have on a team. Yeah,
they drive you crazy. For years, and it took me a while, but I finally quit this guy, who's another one of these Brandon Morrow types. You look at the underlying numbers and you're like, he should be a stud, and then he never is Ricky Nolasco.
Yeah, I remember last year that was your big guy.
I loved him. I loved Ricky Nolasco. I've loved him for years. Another guy that I finally quit him middle of last year, but last year 4.67 ERA, 3.55 xFIP. In 2010, 4.51 ERA, 3.37 xFIP. In 2009, a 5.06 ERA, an xFIP of 3.23. I mean, he continued. I mean, at some point you just got to be like, there's a guy who's going to have a really good xFIP, but just can't seem to get it together and be consistent.
And the reverse of that, I mean, to me, the leading candidate is probably Doug Fister.
Yeah, I mean, Doug Fister's an interesting case, right? He increased his strikeouts a little bit last year, but he is more of a ground ball pitcher, and we made the joke about the defense there. I think Fister is going to be hurt going to the American, playing with that defense behind him in Detroit. It's a bad
total
defense.
Stay away.
Yeah, I don't like Fister. Maybe in an AL only league, but I don't think he's going to strike enough guys out to make it worth anything other than a deep AL only league play. It's $5 or $6 in an AL only league.
I don't like any pitchers who are ground ball pitchers who have Miguel Cabrera playing third base. To me, I'm just out. I don't need any more info. I'm just out. It was like Zach Britton last year. His whole career got ruined in Baltimore. We see all these Stonehand guys behind him. Now he needs Tommy John surgery. I lost my number 1 overall pick last year.
I was
very bitter about this.
Yeah, I was worried that the podcast wasn't going to get around to your AL only.
No, I'm not going to talk about it. No, let's keep moving.
Okay. What else you got?
Now, I mean, the Angels, people are picking to be. That's your team. People are really picking to be a 95 to 100 win team.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So couldn't you make the case that their 3 starters, their 3 guys would be, you'd put them in the top 10? Like you'd almost apply the Yankee philosophy of overrating the top 3 Yankee starters just because they're going to get more wins than the normal pitcher?
I think chasing wins is a tough one to do. We've seen this before where we've seen guys pitching on really good teams not have big win totals. We've seen guys pitching on bad teams have high win totals. So I don't like to chase wins. I think that is a very unpredictable stat. I think there's a lot that goes into a pitcher getting a win that the pitcher has no control over whatsoever. It depends on your bullpen, depends on your offense, depends on the other pitcher you're facing. So I don't like to really kind of focus on wins. Having said that, I'm with you in that C.J. Wilson, Dan Herron, and Jared Weaver are all three are top 20 pitchers this year, and they're being drafted that way. I
feel good about having any of those guys.
Weaver's going. I'm just looking at our draft results. Weaver's going 7th among pitchers. Herron's going 10th. C.J. Wilson's going 17th. Which I think that's all. I think that's correct. So I like all 3 guys.
Let's go rapid fire on some potentially sexy 2012 picks.
You're using all my sexies up. This is outrageous.
I'm using up for you. Chris Volstad.
Nah.
Nah?
I've been there with Chris Volstad. He's another one that just NL, no.
Big ARX FIP discrepancy.
I know. I'm willing to miss the boat on Chris Volstad.
Derek Holland.
Yeah, a lot of people like Derek Holland. Got paid, which always is a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I'm okay with him in an AL only league. I think in a mixed league, I think he's replacement level. I think he's a stream guy. Last year I had this.
I'm gonna disagree with you.
Okay, why?
I really like Derek Holland.
All right.
I like his team. I like the fact that he's come through in some big spots. I like the postseason experience from last year. Little shades of Dan Herron in 2004. Got his feet wet. Came through in a couple big moments. I think they need him. And I believe in Derek Holland.
Fair enough. I don't like postseason success. I think that inflates your draft day value.
I just like knowing that the guy came through. I think you can learn a lot about somebody when the Fox cameras are 1 inch away from your face and you're trying to get somebody out in a big moment that might potentially put you on ESPN Classic for the rest of your life. I think there's something to be learned from that.
He definitely improved his command last year. I like Holland. I think he's an AL only play. I don't think he is I think he's a last. I think he's like a 20th round pick in a mixed league kind of thing. My basic theory on mixed leagues, the most popular version of the game on ESPN, more people play is 10-team mixed leagues, which is fairly shallow. So it's a fairly big pool. You only have 3 bench spots. So I tend to like to stream pitchers. Get a couple.
You know what I call those people, by the way?
What's that?
It's a word I can't say in the podcast. It's also used for cats.
See, I call them smart. I call them wise.
Yeah,
I call them. Those are the rules, dude.
It's like, don't even play fantasy at that point.
Why?
You got to pick a league and throw yourself into it. You can't do mixed leagues. Mixed leagues is idiotic.
Why is that idiotic? Mixed leagues. Why is a mixed league idiotic? It's just as legitimate as an AL only league.
It's half-assing it.
I totally disagree. Actually, you have to make
a half-ass move.
Here's the difference between a mixed league and like an AL only or an NL only league, right? In an AL only league or an NL only league, it's much more about the draft because you don't have a lot on the free agent wire. You've really got to nail your draft. Whereas the skill set in a mixed league is much more not just about the draft, but also about how you play out the season. And you make a lot more decisions, in my opinion, in a mixed league, in a shallow mixed league, than you do in an AL or NL only league because you're constantly like, yes, there are guys out there. Hey, Derek Holland's on the free agent wire. Do I start him? Do I drop Gavin Floyd? Like, you have to make those decisions. There are good players available at all times. So now you're making decisions, and there are good players available to every team in the league. So every team in the league is having to make tough decisions. There are different tough decisions than you have to make in an AL or NL only league. But I disagree with you.
Stop enabling these half men to play mixed fantasy leagues.
I know. If it's not Bill's way.
No, it's not a real way to do it.
Whatever. Yeah, you and I have different fantasy league philosophies.
It's too easy to stumble into a closer. I mean, the mixed leagues can get decided because somebody picked up Joe Schmo on the day that Joakim Soria's elbow ligament blew out, and all of a sudden somebody got this $45 Royals closer because he was online a minute before 5 other people.
Right, as opposed to an AL only league where you lose Soria and then you're totally screwed, as opposed to being able to go to
because somebody was smart enough to draft like the next guy in line,
Aaron Crow or Greg Holland or right.
There's some skill involved. Like you're playing, some teams play the percentages. I don't know. It's checkers versus chess.
Whatever.
But good luck to everybody.
You like turnovers in fantasy basketball. Your opinion means nothing to me on this particular subject.
Good luck to everyone who plays checkers out there in the mixed leagues.
Stop it.
It's fun. Tic-tac-toe is fun, too. You should try that. Just be in a homer league or something. Any more sleepers or pitchers you just absolutely hate that you would steer us against?
Well, there's both. I don't like the because I think everyone has a price at what a price at where you can be acquired, right? So I don't like saying I really hate this guy or I really love this guy, but I will tell you one guy that I'm not as high on that everyone else is. That's Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander is currently going 12th overall. So I mean, he's in a 12-team league. He's a first-round pick. Okay. Last year, Justin Verlander. How many pitches do you think Justin Verlander threw last year between the regular season and the playoffs?
Oof. I don't know, but I'm with you on this, so keep going.
Justin Verlander threw over 4,300 pitches last year. 4,300. He threw the most pitches of any pitcher since 2002 in a regular season, in a season, postseason combined as well. And as we talk about his xFIP, right? So his xFIP was 3.12. Obviously, still a very good number, but not as good as what his actual ERA was.
Right.
He kind of got lucky last year. 236 batting average on balls in play. His career BABIP is 285.
Hold on, can I just step in for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
I watched many of those starts. There was no luck with Justin Verlander last year. The balls that were put in play were balls that were like half-ass swings and people who were totally overmatched. So I'm not buying the xFIP for him as much.
That's fair. I mean, and that's very fair. And listen, I think that's a good point, Bill, in terms of like all these sabermetric stats. They all have to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt. And
he would go an extra inning or two sometimes to save the bullpen, and that could mess up your stats a little bit. Like I just felt like stats aren't going to fully capture what he did last year.
He was unbelievably dominant, but he pitched.
With that said, I worry about him this year.
Over 4,300 pitches. There were only two pitchers that pitched even more than 3,800 pitches last year. I just have concern. My feeling is that he had a career year last year, and I'm not saying he isn't very good. He's awesome. But I just don't like paying for a career year. I don't see how he does better than he did last year. I do think the defense, even though Verlander is a strikeout pitcher, I do think the defense is going to hurt him somewhat. I think Verlander comes much closer to his 2010 numbers, 3.37 ERA, 1.16 WHIP, which are still very good, but not what he did last year. And where he's being drafted, he has to basically do what he did last year, if not a little bit better, to be a top 12 pick in a year where you've got such deep pitching. So Verlander is a guy based on his price that I don't totally love.
Also not good for him. Grantland's own Jonah Carey.
Yeah.
Who is secretly one of the best fantasy players alive, as well as a very, very sneaky good over-under baseball gambler.
Oh, I did not know about the gambler. I knew about the fantasy stuff. He's a terrific fantasy player. He's a terrific fantasy writer. Did he tell you my idea? I gave him.
Well, you didn't let me finish.
Go ahead. Go ahead about Jonah. Yep.
I think the Detroit over/under is like 93.5 or 92.5. It's one of those two.
All right.
He loves the under.
Oh wow.
And every year he gets totally fired up about some one random over/under, and this year it's the Tigers. So I would look out if I was a Tigers fan this year.
I think that's a good call there. I have concerns on him in terms of just where he's being drafted. Especially if you sort of look at some of the guys. I mean, guys like Josh Beckett are going in the 11th round. Adam Wainwright, who I love, is obviously some risk, but he's going in the 10th. Even C.J. Wilson is going in the 7th round.
Where is Don't Call Me Fausto Carmona going?
Nowhere. He's not going anywhere. I don't know. He's outside the top 260. Couldn't even tell you.
I'm putting in $1 bid for him just because I want him on my team. Yeah, I like that. I want the new name. I feel like a fresh start for 4 years older Fausto.
Right. All right. I don't think there'll be a bidding war.
That was.
I think you'll get him. I'm pretty sure you'll get him.
He's available?
Yeah.
Let's hold on. We got to move to. We're at the 40-minute mark. We got to move to closers.
I was going to give you one more sleeper pitcher. That
give
I really
me
like. One more. Corey Lupke. He's a trendy sleeper pitcher. A lot of people like him. From June 26th, he became a starter last year for the Padres. Yeah. From June 26th until the end of the year, 3.31 ERA, 1.09 WHIP. He was 12th in Major League Baseball in strikeouts from that point forward. I think Corey Lupke's going to have a really big year this year. He's not a name that a lot of people know. He's a trendy fantasy baseball sleeper, but that's about it.
So closers, it's 2012, and every year closers seem to become more random and more irrelevant in the sense of you just can't figure out who's going to get saves. I mean, look at what happened last year.
Right.
This year it seems like even more of a mess. I
don't know why.
5 reliable closers?
I don't know that there are. I always say don't pay for saves.
Yep.
You look at who finished the year on our player rater at the top of the Craig Kimbrell. Drafted way outside. I mean, just you look at some of that, right? And it's amazing. I'm pulling up our player rater right now. Here were the Kimbrell was number 1, Storen 2, Axford 3. None of those guys were drafted in the top 15 among closers. Rivera 4, okay. J.J. Putz, Valverde, Hanrahan was 7, Francisco Cordero. I mean, Fernando Salas was 11th. Ryan Madsen was 12th. Kyle Farnsworth was 13th.
What about Jordan Walden?
16th last year.
Yeah, I mean.
So, but I think your point is well stated there, Bill. So I don't pay for saves. So I think there are a lot of guys that will come into the league. I mean, the kind of trendy guys, if you want, like sort of the setup guys that don't have closer gigs but have closer stuff. Kenley Jansen, everyone loves Kenley Jansen for the Dodgers. Javi Guerra is the closer. Everyone's willing, just basically. I've seen Jansen actually get drafted ahead of Guerra, which I don't totally understand. I mean, Guerra closed in the minors. He was 21 of 23 of save chances last year. He's got the job. He is the closer. Now, Jansen's got unbelievable stuff. If Jansen gets the job, he could be Craig Kimbrell. So, I mean, he should be one of the first setup guys, but,
This is something that seems to happen, at least in my league, where the closer in waiting somehow ends up with more value than half the actual closers. Like last year, somebody paid $10 for Daniel Bard, who was definitely not going to be the closer at all last year, just hoping that a year from now he might be the closer. But it does seem like people like getting ahead of the game with future closers for some reason.
This goes back to the conversation we were talking at the very top of the show. Yeah, people they want the trendy rookie. They want to be the first, be able to say, yeah, that's right. I had Addison Reed, who is potentially the closer for the White Sox. He's backing up Matt Thornton, I guess, right now on the depth chart.
You don't have to tell me. He's on my team.
Right. So exactly.
We're getting offers left and right for him.
Right. Everyone loves Addison Reed, right?
Yeah.
But so many people are like that, and meanwhile, there's nothing sexy about Kyle Farnsworth, right? No one likes Kyle Farnsworth, but Kyle Farnsworth, 9 times out of 10, is going to have a better fantasy year this year than Addison Reed. He's got a job. He was effective last year. He's going to have another good year. He should have another good year. Nothing screams fluky about what Farnsworth did last year. So
see, I like Addison Reed because if you just look at where the White Sox are right now, why would they give the closer job to Matt Thornton? It makes no sense. Like I would want to find out if Addison Reed was good or not. It seems like he's pitching well in spring training. Just give him the job. Find out. What are you waiting for?
They very well might. I don't know that they've necessarily and announced that they may think he's too young, he's inexperienced. But the point is that everyone loves kind of that next guy. They want that. Yeah. They want the sexy guy. There, I got one in.
Remember Jabba for all those years? People were always waiting for that day when Rivera died, not knowing that Rivera is not human. Rivera's a zombie.
He's a cyborg.
I saw Walking Dead. We freeze framed it, and Rivera was one of the guys coming after the barn.
He's in the back. That finally makes sense.
Yeah. Finally. Little known fact about Rivera. Yeah.
I like it, and I'm on board with it. Yeah, so I just think you're better off in terms of fantasy value, like going with the old proven guys that no one likes, that aren't going to make anyone at your draft go, ooh, good pick.
Yeah.
But they are much more likely to return value. They're much more likely to be the guys that produce this year than the super sexy guys, because for every Brett Laurie or Desmond Jennings or Matt Moore that comes up and is awesome, there's a lot of guys like Brandon Belt and Jerry Sands and people like that like everyone gets all excited about and they come up and then they do nothing. It takes a while. Matt Wieters. Everyone was all about Matt Wieters, and obviously now 4 years into it, this might be the year Wieters breaks out.
With that said, I really like Sergio Santos on Toronto, and I'm continuing to be furious that the Red Sox didn't trade for him.
I don't blame him.
They only cost one prospect. It wasn't even one of Toronto's best prospects.
I like Santos. I like Santos a lot. I like his. Obviously, you've got Cordero there, so that's a concern. In Toronto,
I thought he was good last year.
Santos was terrific last year.
Yeah,
no, Santos was terrific. It's his job, but obviously, if he struggles, the fact that there's a proven closer coming off a quote unquote good year, Cordero got lucky too. But regardless. Cordero, is a guy that's been a proven closer in the majors. Toronto has in the past been quick to change their closers, so there's a little bit of risk with Santos, but I like him a lot. I'm going to talk up your closer here, Bill. I'm an Andrew Bailey guy this year.
What?
Oh, yeah.
There are Andrew Bailey guys?
And I'm one of them. You're talking to him.
Are you an Andrew Bailey guy for the 6 weeks that he pitches well before he gets hurt?
I think he's going to be healthy. Here's another guy. First off, this is another guy that, I know. I've met him, and just an impressive guy. Impressive guy. He's talking to me all about everything he does in the off season. And the other thing is listen to these numbers. I'm going to give you some numbers, okay? Write these down because, all right, so over the last 3 years, Andrew Bailey has a 2.07 ERA and a .95 WHIP.
Ooh, that's nice. I like when they go under the 1 with the whip.
Right. 0.95 whip. And he is 75 of 85 in save chances. His save percentage is 89.3%.
Was pitching for Oakland.
Right. 2.07, 0.95 whip, 89.3% save chances. That's over the last 3 years. Over the last 3 years, Jonathan Papelbon has a 2.89 ERA, higher than Bailey's, a 1.12 whip, higher than Bailey's, is 106 of 120 in save chances for an 88% save percentage, lower than Bailey's. Now I'm with you.
57 Yankee games over.
Of course. Playing in the AL East versus the AL West, playing in Fenway versus Oakland Coliseum. Yeah. I'm with you. But the point is that Bailey actually statistically is better than Papelbon in all those categories. Strikeout rate, Papelbon is better. Bailey has 174 strikeouts in 174 innings over the last 3 years. Papelbon 239 in 199 innings.
There's really only one difference, which was the fact that I knew Papelbon was going to be in the bullpen every day.
Right.
Whereas Andrew Bailey might be
he needs to stay healthy.
In the stands.
He needs to stay healthy. But I guess, there's talk now they're going to move Bard back to the bullpen and Mellanson's there. So to me, again, and this is one of the things about a mixed league, and in a standard 10-team mixed league, and that's what I do, right? I mean, that's the most popular form of the game on ESPN. My advice is geared towards that.
That's why CBS is the most watched network. That doesn't make it the best network.
No, it certainly does not. Although I do enjoy the Big Brother during the summer.
See, my dad got very upset that I said that. Like 12 of his favorite 15 shows are CBS.
CBS appeals to your dad's demographic. I know.
Oh, he's in the freaking wheelhouse. He's in the epicenter.
Do you ever watch Big Brother? I think you would love that. That is right.
I actually don't like Big Brother. It's creepy.
What?
I don't know. I don't like it.
You're wrong.
It's a little too raw for me.
You love Real World and Road Rules and all that stuff, but
those
Big
are
Brother?
edited. I need editing. Need more editing.
Big Brother's edited.
Terrible trash.
I'm so addicted to Big Brother. All right. So anyway. I think you can. I like Bailey, and obviously, if for some reason he does get hurt, you can go to the waiver wire and grab somebody else, or if you just grab Melanson, who I think would be the closer should something happen to Bailey. I think you're fine. I've said on national TV, I say over 30 saves this year for Andrew Bailey.
They put you on national TV?
Occasionally, I'm a basic cable personality.
Hey, you've been playing fantasy probably as long as I have. Have you seriously ever seen anything like this Mariano Rivera thing?
It's crazy.
I mean, he's like 6 years. He's like when you see milk in the fridge and you bought it 9 weeks ago and you're like, I can't drink that, but I'm going to smell it just to make sure, and it smells perfect. You're like,
you know what
maybe
he is?
I'll make a bowl of cereal, and then it's good. It's delicious. That's Mariano Rivera. He's like 9 weeks past the expiration date at this point.
You know what he is? He is a Hanukkah miracle. Are you familiar, Bill? I'm Jewish. I know you're not. Are you familiar with the story of Hanukkah?
I'm an honorary Jew.
Right. So
always felt a kinship.
Right. So the story of Hanukkah, for those listening who don't know, is basically the Jews' temple was destroyed. There was the oil that they used to have the light go that signified God being there. And the miracle of Hanukkah is that in the wreckage, it was destroyed, and there was only enough oil for one day, and they were worried that the light was going to go on, and that would mean God would leave the temple. I'm shorthanding all this, and basically, so what happened is that but somehow in the nearest oil station or whatever to get oil was like 8 days away, that by horse or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they were worried that by the time they got back, the light would be out, but miracle of miracles, the light stayed on, the flame stayed on. God was with them, protecting them for 8 days until they got back with the oil. That's Mariano Rivera.
In this case, it's been eight extra years.
Right, exactly. He should have been extinguished 7 years ago, but
it should have been the 04 ALCS. Should have been the downfall for him, the Roberts deal.
Right.
That should have been it. The next year, he should have had a 5 ERA. He should have been out of baseball. But no.
He didn't.
Now, what is he, 43?
Sounds right.
I mean, somebody's going to spend $25 on him in my AL Keeper League this year, and nobody's going to make fun of that person.
He is 40.
There's nothing like this in any sport.
He will turn 43 in next November. Bill,
this is like Steve Nash doing this in 2017. Steve Nash averaging 10 assists a game.
Bill, he was born November 29th, 1969. I was born December 29th, 1969.
Yeah, I was he was born 4 days after I was.
He's our age, Bill.
I played pickup basketball at USC on Monday. I got hurt in 2.5 games. I limped off. I pulled something in my calf. I can't do anything anymore.
I play basketball with my 13 and 11-year-old, and I'm body checking them.
Right.
You're like
Ron Artest.
Right.
You're like Meta World Peace.
I'm
physical game now.
Right. I'm Kobe. I'm doing nothing but pump fakes.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of, really quickly.
Yeah, let's talk Lakers.
I want to get this point out before somebody else makes it. There is no difference between 2012 Kobe and 2004, 2005 Allen Iverson. They're the same guy. You can even look it up statistically.
Okay.
Same guy. 42% shooters,
right.
Volume shooters, 25 shots a game, terrible from three-point land, not that fun to play with, super competitive, play a ton of minutes. And yet Iverson got killed his entire career for playing that way. And when Kobe does it, everybody's like, oh, Kobe's a killer. It's the guy you want at the end of the games. Well, Kobe's laying down the law. It's his team. Like, why do we treat Kobe one way and Iverson the other way? Because of the titles?
Well, I think that's one of it. I mean, it's 5 rings. I think people like him more. Kobe is better at playing the media game. Iverson had a real love-hate relationship with fans and the media.
And the media.
Right. I mean, he didn't always come across as likable, believe it or not, as Kobe.
Can we agree, Kobe, that LeBron was the greatest thing that ever happened to Kobe, going back to the 2008 Olympic team when in that game everybody was waiting for LeBron to take over and his fingernails went right into his mouth and Kobe had to take over and win the Spain game. And now, like these last couple years,
one of them.
Everybody looks at LeBron and they think, why couldn't he be a killer like Kobe? This is great for Kobe.
There's a bunch of things, right? So LeBron goes to Miami. And not only the way that LeBron went to Miami, but the fact that Kobe was, the argument of Kobe was like, get Shaq out of here. I want that to be my team.
Right.
And rightfully or wrongfully, that's how it's perceived, is that Kobe forced Shaq out when Kobe was up for a free agent. He was flirting with maybe going to the Clippers or whatever, and so they had to quickly trade Shaq to Miami. So Kobe is perceived as saying, I want this team all to myself.
He did. That's why it's perceived that way, because that's what he said.
I think it's, you know me, I'm a Kobe defender. I think Shaq had a lot more to do with that as well. I mean, I think there were a lot of issues on that particular team.
You're a huge Kobe defender. I remember you were flying back and forth to Colorado every week during that one season.
I am not that
Stand
big.
outside the courthouse. Yeah.
Anybody that's a fan of Kevin Garnett can really not talk about anybody. I just want to say that right now, Bill. But all right. So anyway, so I think there's that. Then, so in addition, so Kobe is like doing that, right? Whereas LeBron's like, I need Dwayne Wade to help win a title.
And I'm going to chew my nails during this timeout on national TV. Yeah.
Right. So I think there's that. And then whether you like it or not, last 5 seconds of the game, Kobe wants the ball. He always wants the ball. He
wants to shoot that last miss.
He's hit a lot of clutch shots as well. Stop
please.
It. He absolutely has. 5 rings. 5 rings, Bill. 5 rings, including one over your Celtics. 5
I'm on
rings.
both sides of this argument. Can I just say?
Yeah, you're flip-flopping a little bit. Go ahead.
No, listen.
All right.
So his clutch stats debunk the whole Kobe is so clutch theory because they're terrible, as Henry Abbott has written over and over again over the last few years.
Yep.
On the other side, the reason his clutch stats are terrible is because the other teams always know that he's going to shoot. He's never, ever going to pass the ball, ever. So it's almost the equivalent of, remember when Mike Smith ran that 4th and 1 in the Atlanta game?
Right. Yes. Everyone knew.
The Saints knew they were going to run to the left, and they just put like 10 guys over there, and they stuffed it. And it's like, yeah, it wasn't a bad decision to go for it. It was a bad decision to run that play. And that's kind of where I am with the Kobe crunch time stats. It's like, yeah, he's shooting 29% or whatever it is because every time he gets the ball with 10 seconds left, he's triple teamed and still shoots.
Right.
So it's kind of his fault, but at the same time, I don't know if that means he's clutch or not. He's more bullheaded.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I've seen him hit some big shots. I've seen him miss some other ones. Part of the problem with Kobe is that for a long time, the Lakers don't, for better or for worse, haven't had an option to take that last big shot. I mean, Fisher has some, but they haven't had it. So a lot of times, and this is a criticism of Kobe, and it's a legitimate one, is Kobe will jack a 3 from 5 feet behind the line off 1 foot with 2 guys on him instead of trying to pass it off, with like 3
Right.
seconds left, 4 seconds left. So that's the other thing is I would be curious as to how, if you took out the low percentage shots, because Kobe will take that. Kobe will take it from half court. He'll take it from 5 feet behind the line. How many of those quote clutch shots are actually like reasonably makeable shots? And that would be an interesting
Not a lot
study
of
to
them.
me.
We got sidetracked.
But anyway, and then of course LeBron's meltdown last year. So I think just LeBron becoming a villain has taken it off of Kobe. It's definitely helped him. And listen, 5 rings, dude. Guy's got 5 rings. I mean, I think it's insane that he is at his age on this team. He is leading the league in minutes. I mean, I think it's they're running him into the ground, but whatever.
I guess insane would be one way to look at it.
Yes.
I would say dubious or mysterious would be the 2 adjectives I would use, and I would also Google the words Kobe in Germany.
Well,
for
listen,
anyone listening up, just Google Kobe in Germany.
You know who else went to Kobe's doctor in Germany?
Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah, bringing it back to baseball. See what I did there, Bill?
Yeah, that was
Little
nice.
segue.
Good segue.
What do you think? You buy A-Rod as a sleeper?
I spent, I think, $32 on A-Rod last year, and I think that's it. It's nothing personal. I've decided to move on with my life. There'll be no more A-Rod in my fantasy baseball life.
Yeah, I
wish him the best.
I think third base is actually a deep position this year. That's another one that traditionally is kind of shallow, and yet this year you sort of look at who's there at third base, and it gets pretty deep, especially when you consider that you can draft Miguel Cabrera, you can draft Hanley Ramirez. They don't qualify at third base now, but 2 weeks into the season they will, or one game, depends on your league's settings. So if you add those 2 guys to the third base pool, if you just draft it, if you manage to get one of them and you drafted an additional shortstop or you drafted an additional first baseman, and so at the very end you grabbed a third baseman, whatever, a replacement level guy for the first 2 weeks, I mean, the pool gets even deeper. So, I mean, Bautista, Longoria, Beltre, not crazy about David Wright, Sandoval, Zimmerman, we've already talked about Laurie, Aramis, Ramirez. I think Kevin Youkilis is going to have a nice year. This is a guy that's going way too late, I think. He's going outside our top 10.
I worry about him physically. It feels like I think playing third base was a real grind for him last year.
It's definitely tough, and with Ortiz and Gonzalez, he's going to have to play there if he's going to get on the field.
Yeah. Just worry, like, how is that guy going to age? Like, I've seen him in person, and he's built like a hockey goalie.
Right.
Like, he doesn't seem like he's the guy who would have the 400 OBP every year with the 500 slugging. It just doesn't, when you look at him, you're like, really? And I don't know. It just worries me.
If you look at the underlying numbers, there's nothing that really stands out. Obviously, his average dropped a lot, but he just missed time. The guy was hurt. And
he
yet,
had like 3 different injuries going.
Right. And yet, even with all that, still 17-80. A solid season. Not what you wanted out of Kevin Youkilis, but still a solid season. And if he does what he did last year, 17-80 with, say, a 285 average instead of a 258.
Yeah. Right.
You would take that, and where he is currently going, outside the top 90 picks, that's still a bargain.
This is the Checker League? Checkers League?
This is ESPN standard.
Round by round mixed league?
Yeah.
Tic-tac-toe? The tic-tac-toe of baseball?
I realize that you would like the BS report to be entirely about the League of Dorks and your own AL-only keeper league.
Listen, I'll dumb it down for the listeners.
It's not about dumbing it down.
They could be in there. Are pitchers allowed in these checkers leagues?
God forbid you appeal.
The pitchers?
Yes. God forbid you
pitchers
appeal
are allowed?
to the most people, Bill, as opposed to just, you know what, I'm going to do it for my own league. I'm doing a podcast for the 9 people in my league as opposed to the majority of the people that play this way. I like that.
What are the categories? Just batting average and homers?
Yes, pretty much. That too. And vowels and names.
All right, hold on. We've hit the biggest part of this podcast, my favorite part, because we're nearing an hour, and that means just about everybody in my league has probably stopped listening. So now we can get to the real nitty-gritty stuff here.
You know there are 3 different people in your league that either text me or DM me on Twitter or email me for sleepers.
They've tried to steal all my people.
Yeah.
I still have a couple sources they don't have, but I know. I've lost Jonah Carey, Keith Law, and you to at least 2 of the teams in my league, which I really resent. And I told Jonah, if he talks to anyone from my league, there's going to be some real trouble.
That's what you can do. That was one of the smartest things about hiring Jonah.
I know. Because Jonah actually works for Grantland. I can suspend him for 3 weeks if I find out that he talked to Mike Mendelson or something.
Hey, did he tell you? I pitched. Hey, real quickly before we get to this thing, I pitched to Jonah because he's going to do a fantasy column for you guys this year, right?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
I think so. Well, I pitched him. I thought a really good idea for what I thought his column should be. Did he pitch this to you?
No. Why don't you let him pitch it for me?
All right. You want me to pitch it for him or to let Jonah do it?
I want Jonah to do it because we only have like 10 minutes left, and we have.
We
to
could
get
do a
through the
two-parter. What have you got going on?
No, let's go. I have to go. 27 is the key age, as we all know, for fantasy and baseball for whatever reason.
It's a myth.
Who's in the 27 club? Oh, by the way, it's the reverse. If you're a musician, you die. In fantasy baseball, you thrive.
The age 27 thing has been proven to be a myth.
I don't care. I don't care. Don't throw facts at me. I like guys when they hit 27, 28.
Fair enough.
So who are the guys
that
this
one
year?
you can ask that one you can ask Jonah, because I don't look at age. I mean, I know who's young, I know who's old. I don't have a magical 27 because that's not something I pay attention to.
Okay. So all right, well then let me rephrase because you don't look at age. So who are your favorite breakout, jump up a level, aka Howie Kendrick, who is now called Howard last year?
Let's see. Some of the guys that I really
go quick.
I don't think guys that sort of jump up. I mean, I think there are guys that are being undervalued. I like Cameron Maybin a lot. He's just 25. Did you know he stole 40 bases last year?
I did.
Yeah.
He feels like he's been around forever. I know. When the Tigers traded him.
Right, because he came into the majors when he was like 19 years old, but he's only 25 years old. I think the power is starting to come in. You look at what his numbers were last year, and you look at sort of what the projections are for a guy like Desmond Jennings, who's going 6 or 7 rounds ahead of Cameron Maybin.
There's a lot of Desmond Jennings shine right now.
Yeah. I like Freddie Freeman quite a bit.
I do too.
Yeah, I like you look at sort of the second half of what he did there. I like Freddie Freeman. I think if you look at his numbers and compare to what he did last year to what Eric Hosmer did last year, and I love Hosmer. I mean, I think Hosmer is something special. I think Hosmer makes that jump into, we talked about that top 7. I think Hosmer is in that elite class next year. But so I'm not saying Freeman is Hosmer, but if you just look, everyone loved what Hosmer did last year. Freddie Freeman did basically the same thing. I mean, they each had about they each had over 500 at bats, over 60 runs, 19 home runs to 21 home runs, 76 RBI, 70. I mean, their numbers compare very favorably. Freeman had a few more at bats, he had a few less steals, but their numbers compare very favorably. Here's a guy. I got a good trivia question for you. There have been, in the last 5 fantasy seasons, there have been only 4 shortstop eligible players who have had a season with a .290 batting average and 40 stolen bases. Jose Reyes in 2008, Hanley Ramirez in 2007, Jimmy Rollins in 2007, and who's the 4th?
Did it happen last year?
Yes.
It wasn't Coco Crisp, was it?
It was not. Shortstop eligible.
Oh, shortstop eligible. Who was it?
Emilio Bonifacio.
Oh, I would not have gotten that.
Emilio Bonifacio is going to get over 500 at-bats this year playing for Miami. He's got Ozzie Guillen, who loves to run. Ozzie Guillen, the last 3 years that he was with Chicago, the White Sox were top 5 in Major League Baseball in terms of total steal attempts. Ozzie loves to run. He's got Hanley, Reyes, and Bonifacio. Bonifacio, he learned to take a walk last year. Bonifacio could easily steal 45, 50 bases this year, if not maybe even 60. Bonifacio is a guy who's going really late, so that's a guy that I think, I don't want to say takes the next step, but I think he does what he did last year and then some. I like Brandon McCarthy a lot. That was
he
a guy.
He was good last year.
Yeah, he was.
How about that?
That was speaking of guys in your league, that was the sleeper that I gave your buddy Lewis in your league last year.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry.
Thanks for that.
He said, before I did your podcast, he's like, just save one sleeper for me. Please save one sleeper for me. And that was the guy I saved. So I gave him Brandon McCarthy. And I think he got him for what, $3, $4 in your league? Something like that?
We actually liked him too, but we had no money left.
But I already mentioned Bumgarner. I think Bumgarner takes the next step. But the guys that I really like, I like Brandon Beachy a lot. I think he's going to have a big year.
I don't like the name.
You don't?
No, I feel the opposite about his name as I do about Freddie Freeman, who I just will always overrate because it's such a great name.
You're big on the names. Justin Verlander, just to give you an idea, Justin Verlander's K per 9 last year was 8.96.
Yeah.
Brandon Beachy's 10.74. The most of any pitcher that threw at least 140 innings. So right. I really like Brandon Beachy this year to kind of take the next step. But mostly what I like, if you're asking me for sleepers, it goes back to what I was talking about, proven player off of a bad year. So I like guys that that I think are really depressed because no one cares about them. They have weird things like, I don't like their name. How about Raul Ibanez? No one likes him. Well, Raul Ibanez has had 7 straight seasons with at least 80 RBIs, 20 home runs in 84 last year. And then you look at he's been playing at Philadelphia, he's been playing in Seattle. Now he goes to the Yankees where he's going to DH. He'll probably get a few less at bats. But I think he's a perfect fit for that ballpark in terms of his swing. Needs to obviously stay healthy, but I mean last year in a down year for Ibanez, he was still 20 and 80. And now he's going to be hitting in the middle of that Yankee lineup and Ibanez costs you nothing. It's a guy that's going to go for less than $5.
I feel like Josh Hamilton might end up being on this list because
I like Hamilton.
There's been just enough off-field stuff that everybody kind of looks at him and goes, "Ooh, I don't want to end up with spending $23 on him when he ends up in some bar or something," and that might not happen.
No, contract year for Josh Hamilton, by the way.
Contract year for Josh Hamilton. Hey, speaking of the Rangers, you buying or selling Yu Darvish?
Selling. I just don't. Again. To me, there's so much that's unknown in fantasy. I try to eliminate where I can things that I don't know, and I just don't know on Darvish. I just have no idea how he's going to. It's one thing to be impressive in spring training when he's blowing by the Padres. Okay, it's another thing in the middle of the Texas heat. How's he going to hold up over the whole course of a season? I think to me, my sort of take on Darvish, I think Darvish is going to have a really great 2.5, 3 months. And then I think he's really going to struggle in the second half once the league catches up to him a little bit more and you start seeing some fatigue. So a guy that I like more than Darvish, because I think he's a lot cheaper to acquire, is Neftali Feliz, who's moving from the closer role to the starting rotation. I think Mike Maddox is one of, if not the best pitching coach in baseball for the Rangers. We've obviously seen the Rangers have a lot of success with C.J. Wilson, Alexi Ogando, guys moving from the bullpen to the starting rotation. They're doing that with Feliz. If the off-speed stuff works for Feliz, and he's actually been working with Pedro Martinez in the offseason on his changeup, if the off-speed stuff works for Feliz, I think he could have a really big year. And people are down on Feliz. So I think that's a guy that I think could be a top 30 starter this year, and he's going outside the top 45.
3 names quickly. Matt Moore at Tampa.
Like him a lot. He's going to be overhyped. He is legitimate. But, he's all that in a bag of chips. He's legit.
The thing that people always forget with these young pitchers is that they always end up only throwing like 160 innings. And people pay the 200-inning price for them, and they never hit it. I
don't think that'll be a concern with Matt Moore. I do think he'll...
You think he goes 200 innings coming out of the gate?
I don't think he goes 200 innings, but I don't think they're going to... I do not think they are going to limit his innings.
I think he will end up getting paid for in an auction, like comparable to like what Danny Herron and C.J. Wilson would go for.
Well, maybe.
My guess.
I'm sort of looking at where he's going in drafts. He's going right behind Strasburg, C.J. Wilson, Kennedy, going right ahead of Bumgarner, Romero, Wainwright, Daniel Hudson. Wainwright is a guy, by the way, that I like a lot. He's had an entire year to recover from this. He's a top 10 pitcher if you weren't concerned about the health. And it's not like Josh Johnson where this has been a recurring thing. He's normally a healthy pitcher. The recovery rate of pitchers in similar situations of Wainwright is traditionally pretty good. So, yeah, I actually like him. I like Wainwright quite a bit.
Where do you stand on Jesus Montero in
Seattle? I like him. It's obviously not as ideal as hitting in Yankee Stadium, but I think he'll be a very good major league hitter.
How about your own Mike Trout?
Don't get me started. I'm so bitter about this because I'm in an AL-only keeper league, and I've had Mike Trout. I mean, and I'm an Angels fan, so I love Mike Trout. And because of the way this league works, if a guy that you have on your minor league system gets called up, you have 2 weeks after he's been called up to activate him. So I had to activate him last year because he came up for a little while. But now that he's been active, if he does not make the opening day roster, I have to release him. I can't put him back. Once somebody's activated from your farm team, you lose him. You can't put him back in the farm team, and you can't keep in this league. You can't keep anyone on your team that isn't on a major league roster. So I'm going to lose Mike Trout, and I'm so bitter. I've been hanging on to him for 3 years. So I'm very bitter about that. But yes, love Mike Trout.
Just get him back.
I can't because then we have a minor league draft, and I finished too high last year. It goes in reverse order of standings, and so he's going to be the number 1 pick, and I have the second to last pick or the third to last pick, something like that.
Listen, that story isn't nearly as traumatic as us having the League of Dorks number 1 overall pick last year and getting ready to take Michael Pinata all spring training, and then he made the team. And we ended up taking Zach Britton, who's now headed for Tommy John surgery.
Well, I don't think Pineda is going to be very good this year, by the way. That's another pitcher that I'm down on.
He would have been a $5 pitcher.
He would have been worth that, obviously, in an AL-only league.
Wait, hold on. We have to wrap up.
Yeah.
But we have one last conversation left to have. This has become an annual ritual. This is the part of the podcast where I convince you that Dice K is a sleeper.
Good luck on that. All right, go ahead. I'm ears are open. Mind is open.
All right, so especially in the mixed league checker leagues, they have the injured reserve spot that you draft the guy and just stick him on there and then pick up a free agent. Right? They have that, or is that even too complicated?
Yeah, no. They have a DL slot. They have a DL slot. Why don't you've and by the way, I've played in a league with you before.
I know, and I stopped because I was bored.
No.
I was bored. Anyway,
I think Gus Ramsey took. You co-owned that with Gus, and I think it was just a power struggle between you and Gus. That's what I think
Westbrook
it was.
and Durant.
Yeah,
Westbrook and Durant. We couldn't decide on moves.
Right.
So he comes back. They're saying like probably June.
Okay.
I think right. June, late June, somewhere around the All-Star break. Contract year. Fixed his arm. Speaks Japanese, as we know, because he's from Japan. You know who else speaks Japanese? The manager, Bobby Valentine.
Right.
Who's going to take Dice K under his wing. Big second half ahead for Dice K.
Well, feel free. The walks are still an issue. He has yet to have a walks per 9 under 4. I think he has yet to do that in the major league. So
you know what else he's yet to have?
His K per 9
speaks Japanese.
That's going to change everything?
Yeah. He's going to come out and say things to him in Japanese, and Dice K is going to go, yeah, I should settle down. See, I didn't understand the manager before. Now I do.
For whatever it's worth,
settle down.
Bill, his ERA last year, of course, 5.30, very disappointing. His xFIP, a 5.75. He actually outperformed his xFIP.
It's a tough xFIP.
That one is all you. That one is all you. I'm happy to be wrong on Dice K. Dice BB, as I like to call him. Yeah.
I didn't actually believe it. I just felt obligated to keep the tradition going. Because there's 3 straight years where I said Dice K was my sleeper.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think you've been right yet. I don't think you've been right yet.
Right. You know what else? I won't be right this year, but we have to keep going. And the next year when he's back in Japan, we'll still do it.
Right. We'll do it for Japan Fantasy Leagues.
Matthew Berry, big weekend coming up for our fantasy playing listeners, and I know a big 10-day stretch for you. We'll see you on ESPN Baseball Tonight, probably a little bit, maybe.
Oh, we did the Baseball Tonight special last week. I think we'll see if there's some TV stuff. You know, they don't do as I don't know.
Numbers never lie.
I haven't been on that show in a long time. They
why?
I go where
they went to that quiz show format.
Yeah, I go where they tell me, Bill. I don't question why. I just when they tell me to go somewhere, there's not as much, and it's too bad, but there is not as much demand for fantasy baseball on TV as there is obviously fantasy football. So I don't know what my TV schedule is.
I feel like Jamie Horowitz has lost his way.
I think you need to talk to him about it. You're the only one that can.
Have to have an intervention.
Yeah, you're the only one that can reach him. I try. He won't listen.
He's all about dial-ups, dial tests, and 15-minute ratings now. I got to bring him back into the fold.
Please do.
That Horowitz guy. All right, and we'll check. You have one last big fantasy preview?
Well, all on ESPN.com, just all my articles and everything like that. So you can.
But you already did the love-hate. You did your top 250.
Right.
You did the manifesto that you stole that title from me from 20 years ago.
You're insane on that. You're insane on that.
What else did you do?
Well, you
have your Fantasy Focus podcast.
Right. That we do that every single day. I have a 100 facts coming out today. 100 facts you need to know. 100 facts you need to know before you draft. A couple of them have been dropped on this particular podcast, by the way. But 100 facts you need to know comes out. That we're doing it Thursday, so it's coming out today. Next week I'll probably do my little my 10 lists of 10, and then the week after that my You Heard Me, which is all my bold predictions. So we have tons of great stuff in the draft kit, and of course you can always follow me on Twitter, Bill.
Oh yeah, Matthew Berry TMR.
Yeah, that's me.
So
yeah,
is one of the 100 facts that you're not really a man if you're in a mixed league?
No, because it's not true. Bill.
All right.
It's not true.
I think that should be in there for next year.
Do you think the reason you're so angry about this is that you haven't won in the League of Dorks in a while?
It has
not been your year in our fantasy basketball league.
No, you can thank Carmelo Anthony for that one. Thank you, Carmelo. Thank you for single-handedly destroying my team.
I want to
I spent like $60 on him.
Yeah, I want to out you right now, by the way, because I don't know if America knows who is on your fantasy basketball team on the White Mambas.
Kobe Bryant. I got stuck with Kobe. That's why my team died. I was trying to bid him up, but everybody was like, take him at 40. I was like, what?
Exactly. That was one of the best moments when you're sitting there and you're like, and now you've got to root for Kobe all year.
And the sad thing was I left the draft thinking he was my best pick.
Yeah. And
I am before next year's draft. I'm going to fly to Germany and get stuff injected into my
into your brain,
my back, into my brain.
Right.
Try to do better next year. Matthew Berry, thanks so much. As always, a pleasure. We'll talk to you during the season.
Thanks, Bill.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Podcenter at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.
The BS report is over, so you'll have to find some other way to occupy your time. Perhaps our good friend Blake Griffin has a suggestion. What do you say, Blake?
Chow down with the Italian collection at Subway.
Of course, a fantastico idea. Like the irresistible Italian BMT, Mondulicious Meatball Marinara Melt, or the, help me out here, Blake.
The Chicken Pizziola Melt.
Perfecto. Hurry into Subway for a taste of the Italian collection today.
Subway. Eat fresh.